Hello and welcome to Drummondtown Retreat and Conference Centre for this Lenten reflection. Over the past several months, during the reality of this COVID pandemic, the image of the rainbow has become familiar to many of us. It has become a symbol of support, of solidarity, of safety and hope, as well as a promise of better days to come. For Christian communities, the rainbow is a symbol of God's covenant. And according to the book of Genesis, God sends a rainbow after a 40-day flood. God says that the rainbow will reappear throughout time as a reminder of God's protection of the people. The African-American poet, storyteller, and civil rights activist Maya Angelou once wrote, "God puts rainbows in the clouds so that each of us in the dreariest and most dreaded moments can see a possibility of hope." After the rain comes the rainbow. After a storm, there's often calm. After the night, there's a morning. And after an ending, there's a new beginning. The poet Murakami writes about this new beginning, and it's especially relevant to these times when he said, "And once this storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of this storm, you won't be the same person who walked in." Writing in her column in the New York Times, their national religion correspondent, Elizabeth Diaz, wrote last March, "Within a few short months, a microscopic particle has laid bare human mortality and forced a reckoning with the most intimate questions we have. Questions not only about how we live, but also about how we die, about what we can control and what we cannot, about how to name human dignity, despair, faith, and hope." For many people, these past months have caused them to stop, to pause, to slow down, and to listen, and perhaps sit with life's most important question. What is it that really matters to me, and why? Fear and anxiety is contagious. Unfortunately, so too is hope, kindness, and love. We have seen examples of that hope, that kindness, and that love in many people across our world over the past several months. None more so than Captain Sir Tom Moore, a World War II veteran who has to date raised over £39 million for NHS charities. He did it in the run-up to his 100th birthday. Sadly, Captain Sir Tom Moore died on the 2nd of February this year to COVID. But he is an example of a group of people who have called forth the very best of humanity in these difficult times. At this moment, there are over 500,000 centenarians in our world. These are people over 100 years old. Typically, we hear them only described as a vulnerable group, a risk group, who need to isolate and cocoon. But we forget that this group of people hold with them a wisdom, because they are living through their second global pandemic. In 1918, the Spanish flu visited our world. Like today, face masks became commonplace. 50 million people were to lose their lives to the Spanish flu, with 1 in every 3 people becoming infected. I would like to introduce to you 3 centenarians who have lived through 2 global pandemics and share with you some of their wisdom. The first is a Spanish national by the name of Maria Brañas. She was born in 1907 And on March 4th, 2020, she celebrated her 113th birthday with her family and friends in the nursing home in which she is a resident, just a few days before the Spanish government were to impose one of the strictest lockdowns in Europe. Maria had to become isolated in her room. No family or friends could visit during the lockdown. And in April of last year, she, like many others in the nursing home, contracted COVID-19. 17 of her fellow residents were to lose their lives to the virus. Thankfully, Maria survived. Maria, reflecting afterwards with her granddaughter about how she managed to get through the lockdown, recalled her own memory at the age of 11 during the Spanish flu, when things became difficult and challenging. And she would find encouragement then and now in the words of her grandmother when she would say, "It might be stormy now, but remember, it cannot rain forever." The second centenarian I would like to introduce you to is Sister Vivian Avantik. She is a Chicago Benedictine sister, and in August of last year, she celebrated her 107th birthday. She was born 5 years before the Spanish flu pandemic. At that time, she lost many loved ones, including her maternal grandmother. Like Maria, in April 2020, Sister Vivian contracted the COVID-19 virus and thankfully recovered. She is today the oldest living Benedictine in the world. She spent most of her life as a teacher, a librarian, and an archivist. And during the celebrations of her birthday last year, she was asked to share with the group that had gathered the secret of her long and storied life. And she came to the front of the group, stood up, and with a smirk on her face, she said, "My secret is this. Every morning I wake up, I ask myself the same question. Am I going to waste today living in a tomorrow that has not yet come?" When so many people at this time are living with the reality of anxiety, perhaps we could learn from the wisdom of Sister Vivian. Finally, my third centenarian, and I would call her my COVID champion, is Sister Randall. She is a French sister of charity. She was born in 1904, and on February the 11th, 2021, she celebrated her 117th birthday. She is the oldest person in Europe and the second oldest person living in the world. She is blind and today confined to a wheelchair. She has been a religious sister for 77 years. In January 2021, she tested positive for COVID-19 and thankfully survived. When she was asked, like Sister Vivian, the secret of her long life and what advice she would give to people during this time of the COVID pandemic, she simply replied, "I have seen beautiful things and I have seen very sad things. Always be grateful." Those who know her well speak about her deep sense of gratitude for the ordinary and the everyday. There is much in these present times we can be grateful for, something as simple as the gift of breath. The writer Peter Marshall wrote in his reflection on the Easter story, "The stone was rolled away from the door, not to allow Christ to come out, but to allow the disciples to go in." What is it in these present times, as we walk our own Lenten journey, as we move towards the great celebration of Easter? How is it that God is inviting us to enter into the tomb and discover the great gift of not just new life, but eternal life? Perhaps, like the woman at the tomb, we are seeing something new in these present times. And the question I would like to ask you just to sit with gently is this: is Jesus calling you by a new name? Are we listening? Thank you.